Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and I do appreciate so very much you being with me. Hey, listen, do not forget, time's running out here in May on my introduction of my brand new book entitled Circumcision in the New Creation ? Okay, now for the month of May, for the rest, not much time left here. We're running out of time, but the book will be regularly $21.95 plus $4.95 shipping. But for the month of May 2021, U.S. orders only. Now, if you'd like a PDF copy of it at a greatly reduced price because you live out of the continental U.S., contact me and I'll work with you on that. But again, for the rest of May 2021, U.S. orders only, special introductory price, $17.95 post-paid. I'm telling you, folks, that saves you $10. That's a fantastic price. So take advantage of that while you still can. And also, do not forget this Friday, I'm going to begin a review and a response to the book entitled Thinking About AD 70 by Brother Kyle Pope. This was written in 2019. It just recently came to my attention because I had several people contact me and ask me to offer a response to it, and I'm glad to do so. So be watching for that beginning this upcoming Friday. That's as I have it planned now. Hopefully nothing will interfere. Okay? Now then, we are continuing our study of the Olivet Discourse. Is it divided into two subjects? And let me simply say this, ladies and gentlemen. Just this week I was reading a commentary in which an individual said that the Olivet Discourse is, without any question whatsoever, the key source for New Testament eschatology. Well, you know what? I would have to agree with that to a great extent. Because Paul, in his epistles to Thessalonica, the Thessalonian epistles, draws extensively from the Olivet Discourse. We are told repeatedly by the scholars that Paul's entire eschatology was drawn from the Olivet Discourse. But of course, those very commentators tell us, well, you see, Jesus' discourse is divided to two subjects, AD 70, into the world, into the Christian age. But if it can be demonstrated, as I think personally, I have demonstrated very effectively, if Matthew chapter 25 is not divided or is not part of a secondary discussion of the, quote, end of the world and end of the Christian age, then the Olivet Discourse is simply not divided into two different subjects. Unless you want to take the position of some commentators that it's just, I have to tell you, to me it's some of the most confused and confusing discussion of the Olivet Discourse that I have ever seen in my life. They jump verse to verse to verse to verse, back and forth, telling us, well, this verse right here, that's AD 70. Very next verse, oh, that's end of time. Very next verse, oh, well, no, that's AD 70. How are we supposed to discern that? Where are the very clear contextual delineations and bifurcations to tell us in this verse, it's all about AD 70. But in the very next verse, we're supposed to understand that as the end of the world. I have a commentary set on my shelf right over there, right across the room from me, in which the author, an extremely well-read man, made the comment, it is extremely difficult to find any kind of harmony and unity in Jesus' eschatological discourse, and the reason for that is Jesus wanted to purposefully and purposely keep his apostles confused. Really? We're supposed to believe that Jesus confused his apostles on purpose? Well, what about Paul? Was he confused? Well, evidently he was, because he drew from the Olivet Discourse, which was given for the purpose of confusion, according to this commentator. Why did Jesus send the Holy Spirit then to guide them into all truth? Well, evidently the Holy Spirit wasn't sent to guide them into all truth. The Holy Spirit was sent to let them know, hey guys, this is really confusing. And don't expect to get it straightened out. You see, this doesn't make good nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. But I digress. So, let's move on. As I mentioned to you yesterday, this absent master motif that is found in Matthew chapter 25, 14 and following is extremely helpful in helping us to understand biblical eschatology. Now, here's the deal. About 99% of the commentators go to Matthew chapter 25, 14 and following, and they say, and Kenneth Gentry, by the way, is a good example of this. A certain nobleman was going to go into a far country, and he's going to be gone a long time. After all, it says so. He'll be gone a long time. Well, Gentry and a lot of other commentators extrapolate from that and say, oh, well, a long time is 2,000 years. Where's that in the text? It's not, of course. But in order to maintain their futurism, in order to maintain their division of the Olivet Discourse, they have to insert 2,000 years into the text. But here's the problem. Again, the problem is that we are dealing with the absent master, far country, return and judgment. And as I shared with you yesterday, Matthew chapter 21, 33 and following is a crux interpretum, a key interpretive text for understanding that motif. I mean, after all, it comes before chapter 25, lays the foundation for chapter 25, and we should honor that parallelism. And so, if it's true that the absent master departing in Matthew 21, 33 and following is the same absent master departing of Matthew chapter 25, then does it not make perfect exegetical sense, unless we've got overwhelming evidence, to say, okay, absent master, far country, returned, judgment. Matthew 21. Matthew 25, absent master, far country, returned, judgment. Does it not make perfect exegetical and hermeneutical sense to say same departure, same return, same judgment? Now, a word about hermeneutic. So very, very often, and I've written on this, I've spoken on this, so very often we have commentators who try to dichotomize and bifurcate between text because a certain given word, term, or phrase is not found. It's used here, but it's not used over here. Okay? For instance, in Mr. Pope's book, getting ahead of myself just a little bit, Mr. Pope tries to draw a distinction between AD 70 and the so-called end of the world because the apostles were asking about the parousia, and in some of the later verses that he applies to AD 70, he says the word parousia is not used. Folks, that is a horrible hermeneutic. You mean to tell me that a writer or a speaker cannot use words interchangeably? Look, erkomai, translated as elthi, as I pointed out yesterday, is a verb, a verbal form. Parousia is a noun form. So hermeneutically and exegetically, why could a writer or speaker not use both a verbal form and a noun form to speak of the same event? Dispensationalists are fond of saying, well, look, you know what? In the book of Revelation, Revelation 4 through 22, the word church is not used one single time. Therefore, that must mean that in Revelation chapter 4, you have the rapture of the church. The church is not present on the earth during this time of the tribulation and what have you. See what they're doing? What they're doing is saying, oh, well, a writer cannot speak over here and use these words and then come over here and discuss the same subject but use totally different words and omit those words. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this type of argumentum ad desperatum is amazing, and it's completely misguided. Now, to the point. You know, in Matthew chapter 21, 33 and following, it is certainly to be noted, if you want to say admitted, that's fine. It's not an admission of anything fatal, but the master of the vineyard lets out the vineyard, leases the vineyard to these workers. Well, guess what? In Matthew 25, 14 and following, there's no vineyard. It's just a master gives talents. Talents to his workers. Oh, these must be a different event. Okay, if it's a different event, then it's a different departure. If not, why not? And if it's not a different departure, or if it's a different time and event, then maybe the workers of the vineyard are a totally separate and distinct group of servants to whom the master gave talents. That's what you wind up having to argue. But where's the justification? You see, folks, we can't read our presuppositions into the text. And because in Matthew chapter 21, 33, we have judgment of vineyard workers, as in Matthew chapter, but unlike Matthew chapter 25, we have the judgment of talent men who had been given talents and who used or did not use their talent appropriately. That doesn't mean it's a different event from Matthew chapter 21. Or, by the way, it doesn't mean it's a different time and event from Luke chapter 19, 11 and following. Oh, and by the way, it doesn't mean it's a different departure from Acts chapter 1. And I propose to you, if the absence of the Lord, if the departure of the Lord in Matthew 21 is the same as Matthew 25, and they're both the same as Acts chapter 1, and, to get ahead of myself here, if they're the same as the departure of Luke chapter 19, then we have two parables that definitively posit the coming of the Lord in AD 70. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, I'm out of time for today. Don't forget, this Friday, we'll begin our examination of Mr. Kyle Pope's book, Thinking About AD 70. And don't forget, once again, time's running out. Order your copy of Circumcision in the New Creation ? Regularly $21.95 plus shipping. The month of May, what's left of it, all right, $17.95 postpaid. All U.S. orders only. All right. Again, thank you so much for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. I will see you on the flip side.